He knows what's going on in this movie.
Yeah.
There's
Yes, welcome, gentlemen. It is so exciting to have you all here.
Thank you, Summer.
Yay, okay. So, tardy. Okay, so first things first, I am going to ask you guys an individual question about something other than children and porn.
Uh-oh.
And then, in some cases, and then I will turn it over to the audience to see if they have any. So make sure you think of something good. Now, I know the sound is going in and out. We're just going to do the best we can, okay? They're working on it, all right? I know. Okay, first things first, Courtney.
Oh.
Good afternoon.
Okay, welcome. Now, I was so very excited to see you on our docket because I really, really loved you in Diagnosed Murder.
Oh.
Do you have any stories about working on that show? Because that was an amazing performance and an amazing character as well.
Sure. So, if you didn't see the character, it was very challenging. So he was paralyzed on one side and pretending to have cerebral palsy on the other side. And I had like a week to prepare. So that was really a challenge. So I had to really stay in character because I couldn't get in and out that easy. So while I'm trying to do that, Dick Van Dyke is running around singing show tunes in front of me and acting like a complete jerk. So I could not wait till when my character finally breaks character and yells in his face. And I did so, and he was just like, his hair was blowing back. So that's my Dick Van Dyke story. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, I'm like, you're like, telling jokes.
That's amazing. That is exactly, I'm a Broadway nerd, so that is exactly the kind of Dick Van Dyke story I wish for.
Yes, yes.
Fritz,
Did I turn it on?
I have not seen this. I am curious about it. You did two shorts, one called 12 Promises, Rewards of Recovery, and Is There Life After Rehab and Recovery? Can you tell us about that?
Okay.
I think, is it on or off? Did I mess it up?
It's on, but
So
it's
I
just...
have to hold it up close. I'm not a microphone person. I'm just a loudmouth son of a bitch, so I don't use it. So I can speak to the back of the room anyway. In my life, I have a special place for recovery. Not that I've gone through that process, but my family suffers from some alcoholism. And so I was approached to help a group to make a product, a series of products for teenagers, from teenagers who have gone through programs of recovery and how that has changed their lives. And now that they are in a place that's better for them, they can speak about it more directly to other teens, as opposed to adults talking to teens, which never seems to work. So I threw myself into both of those. There were four kinds of the Betty Ford world. And they're very straightforward kids kind of discussions from, I guess they're late 20s kids who had a very difficult teenage years. So it's not horror, it's having experienced horror and let's get into something better. So that's what it was all about.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I'm in recovery. Thank you, Fritz. I'm in recovery. If anyone else is, feel free to come up and talk to me. I
That's
appreciate
amazing.
your service to our world, our tribe.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I just like a lot.
Disease, but there is a treatment for it.
But you gotta want to do
You
it.
gotta want it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, as much as I would just love to talk to you about young riders, I'm going to talk to you instead about something the audience wants to hear about, which is Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell us about that experience?
Well, I mean, that's a huge thing.
Yes.
Dan O'Bannon is a genius.
Yes.
And he came up with this script and he auditioned us each one of us, for a long time. And then we had these rehearsals where he had got to feel us out, see who matched with who. And, it was a long process. He took his time. But I must admit, I did not know really what was going on. He had this vision that it was a comedy, punk rock, zombies. And, my character really is just kind of scared and wet the whole time, trying to pick up a chick that doesn't want to have nothing to do with it. And nobody likes it. It wasn't the funnest set in the world for me. But when I saw the movie, I was blown away. I mean, as everybody was, it was like, what is this? So he really was on something, and I am just grateful I matched what he was looking for, and I got to be in it, because I'm talking about it right now, 40 years later. Next year is our 40-year anniversary, and it's a really interesting, funny, original movie. The first comedy, zombie, punk rock, zombie.
And Mr. Franklin, last but definitely not least, Children of the Corn adjacent, I really loved 666.
Wow.
Like so much. And I didn't expect to. I went in like another dumb sequel. But it was really good. Of course, you wrote it and were in it and had so much to do with it. How did you think of that? Like, what was the process?
First, my writing partner was also my first cousin, and we're both from the south side of Chicago, Blue Island. Boo boo.
Where?
Blue Island. Blue Island. Anyway, moved to LA in '83. But so we had the idea right after Children of the Corn came out to do a sequel. Have Isaac come back, and nothing happened. And finally, number 2 came out like 9 years later, and then 3, 4, 5, and then we just went in and pitched. By then, Dimension Films with Miramax owned the rights, and we got it pitched. They're like, "Gee, this is a no-brainer." We were running out of ideas, so and I said, "This is number 6, so we got to do 666." And they said at first, "Write whatever you want. Take your time." So we wrote.
I'm just gonna do this. So I'm gonna just talk loud because I'm a theater trained actor.
This is driving me nuts.
So we wrote a huge thing. It was like start off with a mental hospital. Courtney was there as Malachi in a wheelchair, all gnarled up and burned and from the fire at the end. And then I was like taking over the world and the huge explosions, and it was just insane as sounded. So we turned the script in, and they're like,
"We cannot do this. It's just a low budget movie, directed to video. And what are you talking about?" Like, well, thank you for
wasting 3 weeks of our lives. And then they said, "Okay, go away. We got weeks and weeks to write it. And we'll get back to you." And of course, we went on to do other things, other writing projects. And then all of a sudden they call us and like,
"Oh my gosh, we've got it. The corn is green. It's turning brown now. We have to shoot in a week."
So we cranked out the script.
Went through some wacky meetings with some really scary, bad directors. And then finally they found Kari Scotland, who did The Crow and a lot of other amazing things. She's just brilliant. And she helped us shape up the script a little bit more. And then we got Stacy Keach to be in there. They also said, "Okay, this is what we can afford. We can afford you to chop a girl in half. You can afford to electrocute Stacy Keach." And then they gave us a list of what they could afford, low budget. But it turned out better than I thought. So it was a fun experience.
I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting to.
Thank you.
I just went in to watch it, and I'm like, oh, okay.
We got Nancy Allen too. So
Yes, it had a great cast. It was well written. It was fun. Had a good time. So yeah, if you haven't, I encourage people to watch it.
Yes.
Yes, and Kari Scotland really did a great job casting all the parts. It was really
And of course, you were in it, which was awesome to have you return. Yes, please. I love a good callback, right? Right?
They also said, "We can't afford Courtney, so that's hard."
Okay, do we have any audience questions right now? Are y'all shy? I guess.
For Fritz, was there any sequence that the studio nixed that you really wanted to do, or was there a sequence that was extra troublesome for you in the finished product?
Oh, the whole film is troublesome. And these clowns made things really difficult. Here's how it worked, to be very honest and transparent. I was making television commercials at the time and was offered the opportunity to make a feature film and jumped at it with my producer partner in the television commercials, Terry Kirby, who produced the film. And so we took it on as a short-term television commercial production, which means we start today, we find our locations, we get the cast, we organize props and all the necessary resources, and we make the film with our friends, and then we edit and so forth. So there wasn't anything outside of just making up things on the day, like the monster, or how to block the scenes, which I had no idea how to do until we got to the location. I think the most difficult problem, John expressed it with the idea of corn dying, was when my partner Terry and I looked at the cornfields around the United States, and we saw what Iowa offered in July. Okay, that sounds wonderful. We can go to this hotel, we can go here and that. But we're not farmers. We're a bunch of schmucks from the city. So we go back in September, oh, this stuff dies. You know? So that was the problem. Painting the corn, using fish line to hold it up so it wouldn't fall over, fighting nature. And there were sides of the street that were fallow and other sides of the street that had crops, and we would just figure out literally on the morning when we would shoot. That was the hard part, I think. The rest was just fun. These guys were great. It was just a lot of fun.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. No? Okay. I will continue on. I would like to ask each of you about your acting journey. How did you get involved in this craft? For you, your directing journey as well.
According to my father, at 6 years old, I declared I was going to be an actor. I don't remember that, but that's what he tells me. My memory is I was in this after-school program with all the tough kids at school, all the broken homes and things like that. And we had this tough lady named Miss Gardner who would get us to do theater. And craziest thing is she got the toughest guy in school. We did a play with everybody in drag. The toughest guy in school was the lead in drag. I don't know how she pulled that off. But the first thing we did was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We started out as a dwarf, and then I ended up having to be the prince. I didn't really want to be the prince. I didn't want to have to kiss a girl. I was like 10 years old. But when I kissed her, and the crowd applauded, I was hooked. I was it. That's how I became an actor.
What about you in directing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. It was a good story.
It was a good story.
It was a good story, you know. And I must say, on Courtney's experiences, I met Courtney in one of the first films you did, right?
What, Clark?
Yeah.
Yeah, his first film.
And it was your acting instructor, Virgil Fry,
Yes.
that kind of organized it. And Virgil was in Easy Rider, right?
Yes.
And a few others. And so here comes somebody saying, this young man is somebody you should meet and so forth. And that kind of organized it. And, you know, Virgil was wonderful. But making films, I had made television commercials. After graduating from university, I went to Los Angeles with this idea that I'm going to change the world and make films and talk through films to everybody. And got a job running errands for $35 a day and thought I was a filmmaker. And when I went back the second day, because I thought I was hired full-time for $35 a day, they told me, you idiot, we just hired you for the day, go home. So I pawned the snow tires in the trunk of my car so I could get some hamburger money, and then just kept going back, and I got these jobs to run errands in television commercials, which then taught me how to really make film. I was around a lot of really wonderful filmmakers who, like Caleb Deschanel, who's top American cinematographer today, and a lot of other producers and people who at the time, late 70s, were all making commercials. And then, as I mentioned, I started my own company making commercials. Somebody came forward and said, would you like to do any of these films? And since I was saying, oh, this is good tasting tuna, I could direct a feature film, and that's what propelled me. I knew how to make things look nice, and that was it.
Wow.
And then I continued, and then I really learned how to direct films after that. I mean, I really learned how this mechanism works, and what it's all about.
I was in high school. I was on the wrestling team, and I was also doing the musical theater, the plays that go on in high school. And I was having way more fun doing the plays than I was doing the wrestling team. And I remember it was senior year. It was time to. I had to make a choice because you could do one or the other in my high school. I was with my dad and a couple other wrestlers in the back, and we were going into our next year in high school. And the wrestler next to me, Ed Koss, goes, John, aren't you excited? We're going to start our wrestling. We're going to go varsity this year. Aren't you excited? And I'm like, I'm not going to wrestle this year. And it was just silent in the car. I could see my dad just kind of tense up, and this other macho dad that was with him was kind of just quiet. They're driving, we're in the back. And he goes, why not? And I'm like, well, you know that feeling when you're wrestling that you pin your opponent, and it's as good as you can do. It's over, you've won, but you've done this. You can't do any better than that. And you stand there, you're so excited, the adrenaline. He goes, yeah, I love that feeling. That's why I do it. And I go, yeah, I get that feeling every time I walk on the stage. It's just quiet. I can't even believe I was like, oh, that was great. And my dad, I could just see him relax. just like what you did. Yeah. So you know, as a father, you know, he was just happy for me, but you know, he didn't understand or anything. I didn't start acting. I went to college. I studied acting in college. When I graduated college, I did some plays in LA, and I got an agent, and he introduced me to Linda Francis and Jeff Greenberg, and Children of the Corn was loved it. He goes, you should do this movie. It's a small part, but it's a good part. You've never worked before a camera, and you're going to do another movie in Pontiac, Illinois called Grand USA after that, and you can get some experience. And it was the smartest thing, because no one's talking about the movie I did after that you know, I thought was going to change the world.
Randall Kleiser.
Yeah, but we're still talking about Children of the Corn, so thanks, Fred. Really happy about it, thanks.
Surprisingly, I was very shy at grammar school.
No.
Yes. And then I think I went to Catholic grammar school in the south suburbs, again, Blue Island, my park area. And in 8th grade, I think the nuns wanted to encourage me to sort of blossom. So they made me president of the library club, president of student council, and then asked me to write a play. So I wrote a play about illiteracy. And I had the idea of all these characters from famous books would come out of the books and help the two main kids. One was dyslexic, and then learn how to read. And I was hooked in, so I wrote it, directed it, starred in it. And then again, the applause at the end. And I'm going, oh my gosh, they like me! And so my cousin, who later became my writing partner, we went to high school together. And I just said, we are joining drama club from day one. And then as soon as I turned 16 and got my driver's license, I was doing theater wherever 30 minutes I could drive to. I knew I wanted to major in theater. And I mean, it's just so insane to think that I only applied to one college. Now, people tell me, oh, my kids can apply to 15 colleges. I just did one, University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, is where I wanted to go. I got in. And I did my 4 years, and in the 4th year they had acting for the camera. And back then, in the early 80s, there was like these big monster cameras, 3/4-inch tapes that they pop in the machine. But it was great training. And then I did some stand-in work. I was stand-in for Jane Fonda's kids in a TV movie, Dollmaker, in Chicago, because I wanted on-set experience. And then I just knew I wanted to move out to LA because I was 23, looking 14, 13. And I got an agent the first day, and a couple weeks later, I got cast actually first in an Atari commercial, Star Trek Atari game. And I went to the set, and they started cutting my hair. I'm like, no, I just got Children of the Corn. I'm going to the Midwest next week to play a lead in this movie. I didn't have this weird haircut, because I was a young Vulcan. They did the whole Vulcan haircut. And then the guy who did Leonard Nimoy's makeup did my ear makeup. And then I got to the set a week later in Iowa, and Fritz and the producers looked at my hair and go, that's cool, we like it. And then from there it just blossomed and blossomed. It was just, the bug was there.
For John, coming back
Which
to the
one?
island after you did your Isaac character, did anybody approach you in your hometown or say anything?
Oh yeah, there's a local theater that I did a lot of plays, growing up, and they wanted, I came back and visited everybody that I knew that was still there. The director, Dan Flynn, who we nicknamed Dam Flynn, because I'm so skinny. But it was really cool. And then my mom, still, the parents, they're not with us any longer, but she would always cut out, like, you were a trivia question at the local pizza place. Pizza. And my dad had a TV store that my oldest brother took over back there. Some of my brothers are coming Sunday to the show. It's their first convention. They're going to be freaked out. But yeah, so it was always cool. But my mom sent me a clipping from the local paper and said, oh, John Franklin arrived in a limousine and went to the community theater, showcase theater, to visit everybody, and they were all excited. I never had a limo. But it's always fun. It's very good.
For each one of you, what were your favorite scenes to be a part of or to film?
Favorite scenes to be a part of or to film?
Mr. Gage,
Well, the first scene when I come out of the corn was the first scene we actually did, and they did this really great prank to Linda Francis when she thinks the kid's gonna come out at her, but they really snuffed the kid underneath, and it scared the hell out of her. It was still to this day the best prank. I sort of assume that's how all film went from that point on, that everything was a prank, because that's how we started. I'd say that, and the scene where I say to her, "We want to give you peace," is probably my favorite line, because it taught me less is more.
I think, it's a good question, because I don't think about what's the most memorable of any of the things I've been able to be part of. But I think chopping the man's fingers off in the diner, to me, was really cool. And I say that because as we prepared and thought about what we could do to be a group of terrorist children who would, dissolve or just destroy adults, I sat in a room with about 8 adults, sane people, and we talked about the most heinous things you could do to another human being. And no one was shocked. I mean, we were talking about, we could put his hand in a garbage disposal. No, that's not good enough. How about if we get, around their neck with barbed wire? And I just kept thinking, we're adults, and this is just awful thinking. And somewhere, I got an idea. Let's chop his fingers off in the meat slice. Oh, that's cool. And so I kind of embraced that, and it was kind of wrong, but it turned out to be really nice today. So to me, it was, no one got hurt. No animals were hurt in the making of that.
It was my first film. Every scene was awesome for me. I only have 2 scenes in the movie. Carving the pentagram in my chest. I just remember, they were explaining the knife and how it was going to work, the crack the lady's thing, and the guy was pumping the blood. And you got like 45 minutes, John. I just remember going 45 minutes. Okay, just going to the other room and doing sit-ups and push-ups and sit-ups and push-ups. Fritz would come back in and he goes, "My God, I've never met an actor that's always doing sit-ups and push-ups in my life before like you." I'm like, "Dude, I have my shirt off, my first movie ever in like 10 minutes." He was like, "Okay." And then, the only other scene was when I go into the cornfield, and I got to say, that was the most magnificent feeling. That's when I really realized acting is, for me, like the greatest thing, because it was night, our breath is coming out, they had blue lights, there's kids looking up at me, I'm going to sacrifice myself. And I just felt power and greatness in that moment of the supreme sacrifice. And I was like, I am into this. So, and I love this practical set. It's not a greenery, it's at night in the cornfield, and it was gnarly and fun. Thanks.
But I got to interrupt. I just got to say, to add to that, when he marched into the cornfield and pledged his allegiance to the ultimate, he who walks, and "Come get me, Lord, come get me," he was off of the camera in the cornfield in about 5 steps, but he kept yelling that, and us, or around the camera, he said, "Someone tell him to shut up, it's over." Is there no one out there to tell him it's a cut? He just kept walking to Omaha.
Why does they cut, right? I live between action and cut. If I don't hear cut, fuck, and everybody's in the movie with me.
Before I start my favorite memory, I have fans and even friends that come up and say, "We saw fingers flying out from that meat cutter." No, you don't. You see the blood splatter on the kid with the strawberry milk. But they're like, people that will say,
That's the best kind of effect, the one that makes you think you saw it.
Yep.
Again, it was my first movie too. And my very first day of work was that big preaching scene. So I was just so nervous, and you got to walk around and hit marks. So they put a little tape on the corner, makes it, you got to stop here and there. And I just kept doing it, and they were like, "Oh man, he's one take Franklin." So that was nice to hear. But watching the movie for the first time, they had a special screening with Linda Hamilton, Peter Horton, and me. Just this, one of us was going to go do the national PR tour. I didn't get picked, but watching it, just seeing that opening scene with me looking in the window, giving that go to Kiersch massacre, that I'm getting cold chills now. And then watching again another scene with the 2 little kids, where I just had to take their chin and go like that, like, ah! so creepy. So it's very powerful. And again, as Courtney said, less is more. So just doing subtle things. I had no lines in that opening massacre cafe scene.
What was the most dangerous or difficult scene for you all? That kind of-
Most dangerous or difficult scene?
The fight scene at the end, it was super cold and these guys weren't nice enough to dig up the dirt or anything. I learned a valuable lesson there. I would never do stunts like that again without making it was cold and it was hard. So, and Peter Horton and I went at it pretty good. That was it.
You know, at the end of the film, after he gets beaten up and destroyed, and then John comes back and chokes him, and they go off. There's a massive explosion, and that we worked on thinking we would do the explosion in one evening, and that would be our day's work. And we had about 3 or 5 cameras organized. And the way the explosion works is a cylinder, a hole that's cylindrical, is maybe 10 feet deep, dug in the ground, and then trash bags filled with 50 gallons of gasoline are placed inside, and that's ignited. And so imagine the dirt as a muzzle on a barrel of a gun, and it just shoots everything straight up. It's, you know, it's physics, it's great. So the idea was, we'll do 2 of those, and then we'll superimpose the 2 pictures together. If the camera does not move, then it will give us absolute registration, one image over the other, and the background will be perfectly matched, and you'll see 2 fireballs. It'll be bigger than hell. Oh, fantastic, 10-story fireball. It was so cold, the guys were drinking peach schnapps. So they didn't care about moving the cameras. They just spun things around, and the guy that was loading the gasoline had too much peach schnapps. So things just didn't work out, so we had to animate that stuff. So the last scene was like, you know, I used to have hair.
Dangerous?
We're also like involved in the
The most
story.
dangerous thing was that night when I go into the cornfield and nobody else cut, and I'm wandering. I don't know where I am. I'm out in the cornfield. I'm looking for the monster to take me. I don't know what I'm doing in the middle of the night. That's when the PA can get me. I'm like, I'm going up. Oh, it's scary. Really scary.
Peach schnapps, I didn't know that. The most difficult scene for me was up on the cross. After Courtney had put me up there. Because it was late at night, it was like 2, 3 in the morning. Everybody was gone, no other actors. There was just me, Fritz, DP, the director of photography, maybe 1 or 2 other crew members. And they kept lowering me in between takes so that they could throw in, furniture or blanket on me, because it was freezing. And I just had that little shirt on, Isaac shirt. And then finally I just said, stop, just leave me up there, move the camera, just keep going and going. And whatever 5 crew members were there were just like, yeah, thank you. We want to go home still.
You gotta suffer.
You survived Iowa, which is a feat in itself. Do you have any stories about your time in Iowa? Did you get to walk the cornfields?
I gotta tell you a story. I'm sorry, I don't mean to hop anything here. As a company, because that's what we call ourselves, we come in and we are basically gypsies. We all live in a hotel, we all eat together, we all befriend one another, and we are a tribe. And this is making motion pictures. And in doing this particular film, to get the background atmosphere extras, we joined with a local Sioux City theater group who got a lot of people together. And they had a fundraiser one night, which was a gambling night, a casino night. Oh, please, film people, come to our casino night. Well, you don't invite Hollywood sharks to a casino night if you want to make any money. And all the people on the crew, they were just taking these guys for a fortune. There was no giving back. I remember that, saying, leave some money on the table, you're supposed to contribute. No, it's my per diem, I got it better, I'm up $500. I'm gonna milk these guys. So, yeah.
Courtney?
No, go ahead, I'll take this out.
I don't have.
I was telling someone earlier at my table that we stayed at the Howard Johnson's. They actually asked one crew member to get out of their room so they could shoot the birthday cupcake scene with Peter and Linda. But the women at the front desk were so sweet and kind and wonderful. It was just down to earth people. And we actually, and I cried too, because we were there 3 to 6 weeks, and we all were crying because we were saying goodbye. and we knew we'd never see each other probably again. But they were just really good, down-to-earth people, and all the kids were just so nice. Courtney and I did a convention a few years ago in Tumna, Iowa, and one of the girls in the film, now a woman, Peggy, and her husband came to visit us, and we all had a drink afterwards. It was cool to see them.
Yeah.
That's it, I got it.
Got nothing?
Next
Nothing?
question. Yeah, yours.
For John, do you have any interesting stories on Adam's Family?
There you go.
Sure. I have a good audition story, if you want to hear that. They brought me in, my agent said, they had just cranked out like Beverly Hillbillies and some other ones. So my agent said, you got an audition for the Adams Family. I'm like, oh God, cranking out another TV show. So I go into the audition, I got the script, and it just said, ooh, liver leap. So I'm like, okay. But I walk in, and I maybe sign in and stuff, and there's always a receptionist there, and I should not have said this, but I said, oh boy, another old 60s TV series made into a movie. And she's like, well, we've got Angelica Houston, Raul Julia, Christopher Lloyd. I'm like, oh, no, sorry. So I went in, and the first audition, they were just like, can you dance? Because we want to have, I grabbed the assistant casting director, and we're polkaing and waltzing around the room, and they're laughing and stuff like that. And then I had a dream the night before of doing the voice. So they're like, thank you, and they said, you can leave. I said, no. I have to prove to you that I am a Shakespearean trained actor, and I want to do a monologue from Hamlet for you. And they're like, oh my God, this guy's nuts. Let's placate him. He might have a gun in his briefcase, who knows? So they're like, sure. I turned my back to them, centering myself very dramatically. And I turned around and they just said, and they just died laughing. I mean, Scott Rudin and the director, and they just said, right then, it is very rare, you've got the part. And it's just like, wow.
Courtney, when you had your knife to Linda Hamilton's neck, did she have part of her character wanted to fight back vigorously, but she had to restrain herself? Is there a push and pull with that?
No, she just said, she would go for it. She really encouraged me, but ended up, if you see that my fingers are about halfway into her cheek. I was so geeked up. But she came the next day, she had broken corpuscles all over her face.
Wow.
So I learned the lesson: do not screw up the leading lady on your movie's face. No, she didn't complain, but I learned the lesson because you can't have her. They had to cover her face in makeup because I screwed up her face.
Wow.
So I learned once again a valuable lesson.
So tell me, did you guys have any familiarity? Did you read the short story before auditioning, before you filmed?
No.
Have you read it since?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I read it, and my character wasn't that big in it, so I just went on and developed my character from there. But I really liked the ending. That was way more gnarly with them on the crosses and the cornrows in their eyes and stuff. I was like, that should be it. But of course, I'm not a Hollywood guy. So.
Yeah.
Did I read it? I don't read. No, actually I did read it. And to know the literature on which you were going to make a film, you have to know what the thoughts were and so forth. But the sad part about it was that the script was originally purchased or written from the novella with Stephen King and was owned by
Roach.
Hal Roach, the man who started Little Rascals. The idea being this would be a series to bring back, or a show to bring back the Little Rascals brand. It didn't seem to go over very well with Hollywood leadership, so New World acquired it with a syndicate of financiers and hired another writer to turn it into the story we had. But the story itself was too close to the novella, so I remember sitting with the studio executive who had a pair of shears, scissors that you cut cloth with. These things are like 18 inches long, and he would just chop out pages, and we paste the remnants back together, and that became the script, and then some interstitial material was written. So there was a lot of work done because of cost and resource availability and staying within a financial parameter, which is the way these kind of films are made. You get a bag of money, we don't care, don't go over the bag of money, spend what you have.
Yeah.
So you make it up, like I said, how many things cut off your hand.
I was a huge Stephen King fan back in high school in good old Blue Island, Illinois. So, we would like pass around a dog-eared, beat-up paperback copy of Jerry to different friends. You better read this; it's so cool. And then again, I bought when Night Shift came out. I bought started buying all the Stephen King books in hardback. And then so when I got the audition, which was just a few weeks after I moved to LA, which amazing timing. I had the book there, but again, just like Isaac wasn't as big of a character, and there wasn't the same dialogue, but you got an idea. So, but I've always loved Stephen King. He's the genius.
Aside from Children of the Corn, do you have a favorite Stephen King novel? Because you can't
Shawshank Redemption is that's brilliant. It's
That's
really wonderful.
nice.
This is for Franklin. Were you excited when you got to go back and do the 6th installment?
Yes. I mean, we pitched it, and again, they said, no brainer. We need some more ideas. But it was so cool because, I mean, the first one I didn't obviously write that dialogue, but it was really cool to be able to write. And my favorite line is when I say that the Dr. Stacy Kiersch is like, "I have no soul." And it's like, but yeah, it was really exciting experience.
To tag on to what you were just saying about the script writing, did you feel any stress or pressure at all of wanting to match the theme and the dialogue of what existed, or were you just, I'm writing my piece?
No, interesting question. My writing partner and I watched 2, 3, 4, 5, and we didn't really think like any of them that much. So we just said, let's go from the first, which is a classic. Just Isaac was in a coma for 18 years, whatever. It just go from there, and then have his wife's character, Rachel, grown up. She was Nancy Allen, and then she had a daughter. Go watch it. It's really cool. But again, it's just low budget, and we were in a location which was used a lot. Actually, the same hospital that we shot, like the grand ending, was also. I was in another film with Denise Richards and Paul Walker called Tammy and the Teenage T-Rex. So we shot that there too. So it's like always being used in LA location. But also some of the crew members said, we are losing this location in 2 hours. And if we stay here longer, we have to go into overtime for the crew and blah, blah, blah. So actually, the director, my right partner wasn't there because it was like 2 a.m. or whatever. So Kari Scott, the director, Paul, who played He Who Walks Behind the Rose, and I rewrote the ending to become like this game show thing. And then it was boom and shot in an hour, and then we were done. That was the final shot.
What do you think of Children of the Corn?
I have a question for Fritz, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course.
I don't, or maybe John knows, anybody knows this. Was there ever something to do with Stephen King, that Stephen King doesn't feel good about Children of the Corn for some reason? I don't know what it is, but I heard a rumor.
Yeah, that's something. Okay, so,
All fans here.
I mean, come on, guy's got a pen, piece of paper, he thinks he can write. So, when we finished the film, we expected some kind of feedback. But since he was part of the original script that did not sell and could not sell, there's a strong animosity, and I completely understand it. So his note to the studio was one of, he just was not in favor of the result of the film. His work was not translated, was not brought to the screen the way he intended the film to be. I think, so I saw a note that was not complimentary, and then I never saw anything else or heard anything else from him, other than recently in some of the polls about his work being filmed, he rated our film pretty highly in the scale of all the Stephen King work, which was nice. But I did, in Pennsylvania, I saw his name on a poster in a bookstore signing books. This was about 3 years ago. Oh, fuck. So I rushed to this bookstore on Monday morning to go and meet him to say, I'm the guy. Let's talk, let's bury the hatchet. And the poster was behind the book. And when they moved the book, he was there 2 years earlier. So I had to donate my one chance to talk to him.
Well, does he get a percentage of all the Children of the Corn movies that have been made, the franchise?
That I don't know. I know I get reports. Still, I had to fight for the financial reports because we were promised certain participation from all the different owners of the film, and not Disney owns the film, and they're very difficult to deal with. His deferred payments continually get paid, I know that.
Wow.
And he's picked up a lot of money from the film.
Wow.
Probably $1 million
Wow.
over the aggregate, as an aggregate sum. The rest, no one else got any money, really. But he got a lot. He was paid early.
At some point, I don't remember what it was, but I bought it. It's called Stephen King at the Movies, and it's him interviewing and talking about each of the films. And in it, he said that he didn't care for Children of the Corn, but he said that very nicely, I'm sure all the actors that did a good job have gone on to do better movies.
Well,
And here we are, 40 years later.
Right. Well, he said, when it came out, he wasn't in favor of it. He's had 40 years of movies of adaptations to realize that this one wasn't that bad.
I believe he held the rights to the name, Children of the Corn. So that's his intellectual property. What that intellectual property is varies film to film. So he must be paid a royalty or an actual licensing film from every producer for that. And it's probably in a couple $100,000 range. It's modest, but it's still 10 times that. It's done very well. I mean, it's cool to be part of a film. 40 years, March, this year, we were out in the cornfields telling him, keep walking, keep walking.
You gotta say cut.
Just go! Now, you talked about the challenges of filming. What were some of the biggest delights? If there were any.
The delight at that time for my first film ever was something called per diem, which I'd never heard of.
Did you gamble it all the way?
Oh, I didn't gamble. I was only there for 2 weeks. And I was researching this other movie, and I took my per diem and go to the mall, because there was a mall, and just spend it every day. I would buy leather jackets I didn't need, cowboy hats, cowboy hat. And I remember there was guys on the set who had been making movies all their lives, and I'm like, don't spend all your per diem, bro. And I'm like, why not? They give it to me every day, and I just go spend it. And they're like, you think that's gonna come for the rest of your life? I'm like, yeah. I just thought, this is my life from now on. That was a joy. That's just the naivete of that was just wonderful.
But you were supposed to spend that on food. You're supposed to eat with that money.
I try to go to the set, is there any food? That's where your per diem's going. Oh, I spent it on this jacket I'll never wear.
Well, you could always say, hey, I had Thomas, I was on a diet.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't eating, Chris, because of the. Oh, I gotta say this. Flashdance would come out when I'm walking into the cornfield. That we had a wardrobe person saying, "Okay, your shirt's like." It's like, no, my shirt is down here. No, it's continuity. Your shirt's up here. I'm no, it's down here on my shoulder, down where the Flashdance lady had it. That was fun too.
What a feeling.
What a feeling.
It's going to sound schmaltzy, but meeting Courtney and being friends with him still, 41 years later, and John Philbin. Courtney and I just hung out in LA. He came to my house for Thanksgiving. We would just through the years always kept in touch. I wrote a pilot for us that Courtney got the whole crew together, called Horrified, and it's about sort of us going to horror conventions. We shot a sizzle reel 8-minute, and it's so much fun just to keep in contact with him and working with him. And he got me in with our manager to do all these conventions.
Got me in
and
too.
then
Thank you so much. I'm only here because of Courtney.
Yay!
I put a good word in.
Thank you.
So you created a family.
Yeah.
Don't look at me, look at this
No,
image.
that's the guy.
Put them together.
No, yeah.
He's responsible.
No, I think everyone, it was their first film, it was my first film. Everyone had this unbelievable enthusiasm because it was an opportunity that we were all eager to jump into and take. So the work ethic was phenomenal. It was, we can do this. There's nothing that says no. And I think we just plunged through it without a sense of failure. And we were going to make it work. And I know we continued to shoot portions, insert shots they're called, and little close-ups in Los Angeles. I know I stole some film and went out on the weekend to shoot additional film and then paid for it myself because we needed more shots. So there was nothing we couldn't do. And I think that's the cool part about, you call it a family. You know, there's loyalty and there's dedication. You really learn a lot.
Something about that cornfield, it was interesting that Philbin brought that up. There was something about that cornfield that was powerful. And when we go on that set, that's to me where the magic happened the most. Like you would feel the energy. They talk active expression called when the muse comes, when something comes through you. That happened to me every time I was in that cornfield. And I don't know what it was about that place, but there was something happening there. So that was where the fun for me was, with those scenes.
So to wrap us up, I want to ask you guys, what is something important you have learned on a set? Doesn't have to be Children of the Corn, any set.
That's a stupid question.
Sorry.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Because it's hard to answer.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I can fill it in.
I like the
If you need to
stumpers.
think, I can go.
Yeah.
Honestly, the thing I learned the most is that making films is dangerous. Nobody ever talks about it, but it is. Like, if you're riding a horse, I've seen people get hurt. I've seen crazy things happen. I've jumped into rivers with clothes on thinking it was fine, and then when I hit that water, I realized jeans are heavy, and I'm swimming for my life, So you really have to pay attention when you're on a set. It's easy to hit something. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff happen, and so you just have to be aware because there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people and a lot of equipment, and you're shooting late at night, and you're getting tired. And I'm just knock on wood. There isn't any, so I'll knock on my head that I've survived this long.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'll say this on a kind of global answer. After finishing that film, again, my first film, then I went on to make more films, Tough Turf almost right away, and some other cool films. I started to get letters once the film came out from people from around the world. And one came to me, I would say, a year after making the film, and it was addressed to Fritz, Kiersch, Director, USA. So somehow from the post office, went to the Directors Guild, who then, as a member, sent it to me. And I opened it, and it was red ink, written in a spiral, a continuous sentence. It just got bigger and bigger about how much they enjoyed the slaughtering and killing of adults and all this kind of thing. And it literally leapt out of my hand. I thought, oh my God, this is wacky. This is not for me. What have I done? And so my point is that we have a huge responsibility to provide information and to influence a viewer in the correct way. So that which we deal with, the voice of our products, must be in a good, beneficial way. You cannot go out and tell people through film to do harmful things. At that point, I realized I can't do any of these things that are harmful. I have to now make the films with the perspective of benefit. So everything that we do and all the TV programming we watch and now all the media we learn is always manipulated, and we have to think, why is this being told to me? So that, I think, when I made this film at about age 30 or something, really 19, it just opened my eyes to a bigger problem we have as people who have voice.
Yep.
And along those lines, I learned on Return of the Living Dead that after we did the cemetery scene where Trash takes off her clothes, it starts to rain. And the rest of the film takes place after we're caught in the rain. But if you're an actor and you read a script, and it rains, or you have to cross a river or jump in the ocean in the first part of the screenplay, and then it goes into night, you will be wet down by a PA with a hose before every take of every scene for the duration of the production. And that PA that's the only good part of their job.
Bouncing off of what Courtney said about how dangerous it is, before I got shown the corn, my agent said, well, you know, you're short and someday your face is going to fall, you don't look young anymore, so maybe you could do stunt double work. I'm like, okay, I'll get some experience on the set. So there was a small older man in a TV movie called Dead Man's Folly, and he had already gone back to England or whatever, so they said, we're going to put a gray wig on you, you're going to sit on this pier in the Warner Brothers back lot with a lake. And this guy in a scuba suit going to come up and grab you and pull you down under the water. And it was freezing. They did not heat this. And so every time, and they had a whistle, so because a scuba guy couldn't hear cut. And so he would hold me down underwater or whatever until they said cut. And one time, like the third take, I hear the whistle and he's still holding me and he's at the oxygen tank and we're underwater and I just elbowed his face. I said, and he's like, whoa, and so he just let me out. And after that I told my agent, no more stunt elbows.
Tell about on Adam's Family when there was like a fire on set. They were
Oh
trying
my
to carve you out in the outfit.
Do we have time?
Yeah, you got to tell me that. It's a good story.
Okay. So Adam's Family, obviously there was cousin Ned, and I was allergic to hairspray. So they had to spray the suit with like this oil-based lanolin stuff, and they had a guy from the company that built the suit. They called him my handler. So in between takes, they would like a scuba-sized mask. They'd clip back the hair so I could actually breathe. I had a battery-powered fan. My wrangler would come up with like a gerbil bottle with water. I had no arms. But we were, so I go drink gallons of water. I have a beautiful collection that time. But all of a sudden, we were back in the day, like really big lights up there. And we were shooting the big ballroom scene with, 50 extras and dancing around. And all of a sudden, one of the lights popped and burst into flames. And so suddenly, and I'm like, it happened during a take. And I had no way that I could run away. This is a 34 or 5 pound costume. And this woman, a guardian angel, she grabbed me and pulled me aside, otherwise I would have been killed in the stampede. And I'd never know who she was, whether she was just an angel, but she saved my life. Because the fire and all the extras were running out of the sound stage. And it was very, very crazy. Dangerous.
We almost lost you.
And with that oil base, I went whoosh.
Well, I'm so glad we did it because we wouldn't have Children of the Corn 666.
There you go. All right.
Everyone, please give it up.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.